Hi, this is Deirdre. Thank you for tuning in today to this week's The O'Rourke Report, where we look at things that are hot topics, things that are in the pop culture zeitgeist, things that are happening in the Bravo world, things that are happening in reality TV world. Basically, the things that you and your friends are commenting about or reading about on social media. I give you my 2 cents and encourage you to tell me what you think as well down in the comments. Before I do, let me encourage you once again to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the little bell. All these things help me build my clients, you think I'm still working, my subscribers, and helps with YouTube knowing where to promote my channel. YouTube is looking for creators. I like to think I've created something here that people are interested in. So the way for YouTube to know that is for you guys to hit like or subscribe, and that helps me. So if you would do that, if you haven't done it already, if you do that, that would be great. Okay, first thing I want to talk about, a story that came out late last week about Jeff Bezos. This was a comment made by Keith McNally, who is a restaurateur, and he started in London. He's now in London and New York. He's very much, his restaurants are very much, he's up there in the high-end world and swims in more august waters than you and I. Okay, restaurant tour, Jeff Bezos, Vanessa Balthazar, owner. Let me turn this off. Hold. Come on, Chloe. Thank you. He went on Twitter and made some comments about Mr. Bezos's fiance, one Lauren Sanchez, and is really said what we all think every time we see a picture of these two, and referred to Ms. Sanchez as, I'm using the word repulsive, but I'm not sure that's the word, but it's something in that vein. Also said something about what an odd looking couple they are. And, whenever I see a picture of them, I always think the same thing. I always think, God, they're posing there like the king and the queen of the May. Yet for she dresses like, I'm gonna say it. She kind of dresses like a hooker with the cleavage up to her chin, and her implants, are way up here, and her hooker shoes, and she has so much filler in her lips. She literally can't close her mouth. When you see a picture of her, and she's got those lips going, there's a little hole right there where you can see her teeth because she's not able to close her mouth due to these ridiculous injections she gets. And I've always thought that Little Miss Sanchez says more about Jeff Bezos than she does about herself. I mean, Jeff Bezos, when he first hit the scene, he was affecting this persona as though he was just a humble little bookseller from Seattle. I was pretty sure I'd read an article in that vein, but certainly a harmless little nerd who hit it big. Well, the argument can be made that he's probably come up with something that's more profoundly affected the marketplace than anything in the past 100 years, maybe along the same lines as what Henry Ford did in getting the production line of the Model Ts and able to mass produce them in such a way that even the hoi polloi could get themselves a car. It's just profound what he did in the past 25 years. So I mean, in my mind, I think that you may have a partner that's more reflective of you, but who knows? Maybe Bezos is kind of the hooker himself. I don't know. That's a jest, of course. But I just thought it was very interesting that Keith McNally is actually said something that we all think, and he's actually pretty high up in the social world that somebody actually spoke out. was my 2 cents on that. Other thing that happened late last week, early this week, was the Golden Batchelor came a cropper. Apparently, all those weeks of love and finding and discovering was for naught because they didn't figure out where they wanted to live. And yet, still, they rushed and they got married, and they were couldn't. I think the problem was they couldn't decide where they were going to reside. Well, gee, maybe you should have figured that out before the whole ceremony. But maybe then you wouldn't have been paid by ABC Golden Bachelor for your little ceremony, which I think was televised, wasn't it? Such a God. Anybody who thinks they can find love on those shows, although I think a couple of them actually have. Um, I still think it's look. Those are not the things you want to establish before you wed. I would think. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. The other subject that I think is very interesting, and it's been about a month now, and we have not seen any indictments on Mr. Sean Puffy Combs. And to me, that is very fascinating. I'd love to know what's going on behind the scenes because this is the SDNY who went after them, Southern District of New York, 98% conviction rate. They are not doing a raid on your house unless they already got you dead to rights. But what they did get, which they hadn't had before, is his media and communications room that I think he pulled out of the Florida address. And gosh darn, who knows? And it may be because they pulled out that much material that they haven't gone through it all yet. Gosh, I can't help but think there's a ton of scrambling that's going on behind the scenes between Mr. Combs's people and the district attorney for SDNY. I'm very curious. I know there have been some stories floated around in social media that Combs was really an informant for the FBI for the last couple of decades and all this other stuff. Um, I can't wait till that book is written until we actually find out what happened. It's going to be very interesting. I did read the complaint that was filed by ex-employee. I think it was filed November 23. And if half of those things that are alleged in that complaint, if only a quarter of those things as alleged in that complaint can be found to be true, boy, that's the despicable human being in the same vein of Hugh Hefner, another disgusting cretin who, if you haven't seen, I think it is, oh, I don't know, you could Google it. It's A&E's had it, Playboy something, and they interview decades of these women who were processed through the mansion. Oh, it was a perfect place to live. Oh, yeah, poor things. They were made to have. I don't want to go into detail what this guy did, but he was despicable. And the parties were populated by similar old goats just like himself, where these idiotic, poor little teens and early 20 girls thought they were going to get their fame and fortune. Well, they're lucky if they only got away with an STD or something, because I think it's a 4-part series. To watch it really kind of turns your blood cold. And any guy who still thinks it's totally cool to read Playboy magazine, or having read Playboy magazine as a kid, I think you got to think of all those women who were destroyed as a result of this guy. Bottom feeder of the worst kind. So anyway, that's my 2 cents about those two. Speaking of which, can you believe Weinstein had his, speaking of despicable cretins, Weinstein had his conviction overturned for rape in New York. He's still in prison because he was convicted for rape in LA. They're going to retry the case, and it's going to be very interesting, very interesting. So I am been meaning to talk about this one for a while, And it's kind of old, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because I've always been fascinated by it. I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop on this one for years. So far, I haven't seen anything happen. And I'm talking specifically about the horror that was Abby Lee Miller. Now, I know it was kind of a niche show to watch, but I watched it because I had heard that she was one of the worst characters that you'll see on reality television, and indeed she was. And the thing that was horrifying about her was the fact that she was allowed to work with children. And the reason the show was called Dance Moms is because there were mothers who were clamoring to have their children in her class. And one of the reasons they were in her class is because she was so controversial. She terrorized this whole child dance circuit that she was in, and she won. They won awards. But at what price? What price? I had never seen anything like it. In fact, I didn't even watch it to the end because I was horrified what she was doing to the children and the fact that the mothers were allowing it to happen. And I know there was the star of the show, the child that this Abby Lee Miller doted upon and would use as a weapon against the other girls, a little girl named Maddie Ziegler, pretty little thing. She's in her 20s now. She's got some kind of career. I'm not quite sure what it is in. I don't come across any of her material. Although I did see one movie where she played in it, she was very good. But the other one, who is the breakout star that apparently everybody knows, is this JoJo Sliwa. And um, gosh, I can't help but think somebody's got to write that book. Somebody's got to do that expose on what actually happened in that world, and when it happened. Because I've never seen anybody as destructive. She would go right after these kids. Egos and ids. She'd go right after them. Her goal was to crush them and crush them so they would listen to her. And it was very strange. It was very strange. Her mother, Abby Lee's mother, was alive for the first couple of seasons, and she would heap all this praise on her mother. And I kept thinking, Abby Lee Miller didn't jump out of whole cloth. Somebody made her the way she is, and I would see the mother infrequently on television, and I would think I was, kind of understood a little bit more, but not enough to cut Abby Lee Miller any sort of break. She was a horrid person. So anyway, I've been waiting for that other shoe to drop. One small thing I mentioned, and I think it was last week, there were rumors swirling about Andy Cohen, put out there by, speaking of American media, which owns the National Enquirer, was put out by In Touch magazine, also owned by American media, and has been absolutely denied by everybody and everything that's got a legitimate voice. Andy actually said something on Radio Andy on Monday, just saying couldn't be further from the truth. And I just, wanted to pass that along, that Andy is not in any negotiations to leave Bravo. Andy is Bravo and Bravo is Andy. I think we all know that. His sensibility is what shaped that whole channel into the juggernaut that it is now. And hear, glad to hear it. And a lot of people came to Andy's defense. I particularly liked LVP's take on it. She was very, she has some gravitas when she's, not making one of her cheeky little jokes. And I believe every word that she said. So, okay, so I kind of jumped to Andy Cohen when I wanted to do one other thing on child abuse on television shows. And it was this special that was on, again, I don't know the channel. I think could be TLC. I'm not quite 100% sure. Quiet on the Set, following some disturbing incidences that happened at Nickelodeon in the 90s and aughties, how there were several known pedophiles working on some of these very popular shows. And indeed, one of them actually targeted one of the stars of one of the shows. I don't know who these kids are. I didn't watch Nickelodeon, but I think a lot of people do who are a lot younger than I am. Um, Joshua Bell is his name, I think. And he comes right out and, outlines how he was groomed, how um, they worked to make sure the boy's father was separated from the set. The father suspected something was going on. And to me, Nickelodeon was liable in what was described in the show. But Nickelodeon actually said to the father, well, we're thinking you're being unreasonable because you may be a homophobe. So, scare the father away, which it did. And this guy then swooped in on the kid and groomed him, and then started abusing him for a couple of years. And it kind of reminds you of stories that you've heard from people like Corey Feldman and the other Corey. And yeah, this happens. This happens, I think, all the time in Hollywood. And I gotta say to any parent, I don't know how you could ever let your kid go on TV. I just don't know how you could, because abuse is rife. Let's just say rife. I don't want to. I could start other things, but I think we've got a couple of really depressing topics that we went over today. We went over the Jeff Bezos and his blow up doll girlfriend, P. Diddy, Quiet on the Set, which abuse on Nickelodeon shows, JoJo Sliwa and Abby Lee Miller, one of the original abusers that were just out and out blatant. That I gotta also blame the channel, whoever bought this program from the producers, because the story was, watch this old cow abuse these kids and watch their mothers stand by and let it happen because they want fame and fortune. Disturbing, very disturbing. And of course, we'll leave with good news about Andy. The world is back on its axis. Everybody knows that whoever put that story out there, I suspect Jill Zarin, who is probably trying to save or recover after her disastrous appearance on Below Deck, where she was one of the most despicable people you'll ever see in your life. She evidently was a little perplexed by that. She can't believe people think that about her. Huh? So, anyway, thank you for joining this week. And again, if you've lasted this long, thank you so much. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.